What's going on, everybody? Bauer Brown here. Welcome back to the channel, guys. What we're working on today is more than likely going to be possibly the last video in this series. All right. I think up until this point, we covered pretty much everything we need to cover. If you guys have been following along, you should be in pretty good shape by now. If you've really been putting some work into your map, you should be in extremely good shape, and all your placeables should be laid down, your sell points, stuff like that should all be functional. Your info layers are all done. Basically, your traffic system's in place. Basically, everything. Everything is pretty much done and ready to go. Or you should be pretty close to it. Perhaps not, because it does take a lot of time to put into these maps. But anyhow, what we're going to do today is we're going to wrap things up. We're going to wrap up the mod disk, okay? And we're going to get things... get things taken care of as far as that, because there's a couple things associated with that, like the preview image and the icon image and just a tad bit of information that goes into the mod desk. And then that's it. We will be ready to publish after that, okay? And by publish, I mean you can just either upload it to the internet somewhere or just share it with your friends, that sort of thing. Okay, so let's get the ball rolling on that. Let's see here. We'll kick it off by going over to your mod disk folder. Or I mean, your mod disk folder, to your mod map folder. Sorry about that. All right. So let's get into there. We'll go to, let's see here. Right there's my mod disk. We'll open that up. Okay. Now in here, starting from the top down, you can see I have my mod disk version here. That's at 72. I should be in the ballpark with that. I think that's pretty close. It might go a little bit higher, but it's not critically important if you're off by a little bit. You know, if you're down to like 68 or 70, not a big deal. If you want to figure out roughly where you should be, you're not quite sure, what you can do is go into your mods folder itself. All right, so let's go into my mods folder. Find a mod that's fairly recent, right? That's been updated recently or downloaded recently. Okay, open that up and look at their mod disk. See what their mod disk is at. And theirs is at 72. All right, there you go. Not bad. So pretty good shape as far as that goes. Then moving down the list, you got a section for author, which is me, Bauer Brown. You can definitely put your name in there. And then version. Now version, if this is your very first map, it would be 1.0.0.0. If you're not familiar with the way that versioning works and the way version numbers work, just Google it. There's a whole system behind it, not very complicated. I wasn't very good at it for the longest time, and I'm only getting better now. Probably still suck, but I'm working on it, all right? But anyhow... next section now for title. Make sure you have a title for yours, like mine is tutorial series. And below that description, you have a section for English and a section for German. That's what that EN and the DE is. If you want to work with different languages, Spanish, French, Polish, anything like that, you can Google it. Google like XML language tags or HTML, same thing. Well, not same thing as far as the language or syntax, but either way, the language codes are the same, like EN, DE, stuff like that. So if you want to get into other languages, it's really easy information to find. Okay. Make sure that, or maybe you don't have to make sure, but a pretty good recommendation is for your title and your description. You have an upper one right up here that you see, and then right below that, it repeats. You have a title and a description. I generally keep mine the same because, you know, what's the point of having two different pieces of information there, right? So keep it the same. And this upper part here where you can see like the exclamation point and that C data, make sure that stays there, okay? You're going to need that. So anything in between there is where you want to put your description. All right, don't delete the C data that's already there. Okay. And as far as like the translations, if you have a description, you want to put it in a different language, just take your English version here, run that through Google Translate and just translate it over to a different language, copy it back over for German, French, and whatever you pick. That easy. Alrighty. So once you have that information filled in, there's a couple of things you're going to work on right now. One of those is the icon.png and the preview.png. These are both images that the game uses to reference your map. Okay. So people know what they're working with. And by that, I mean, if if you're familiar with the game, when you start up the game and you're waiting for the game to load and that particular map to load, there's a splash screen that comes up. Okay, that's the preview PNG. All right, and then I'll show you where that's used and where the icon is used a couple different places actually. All right, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Okay, so like I said, make sure you change these titles, and we'll get working on the preview. Alrighty, so what we're going to do is, I think I might have worked on mine once before, so there might be something in mine, but what we're going to do is start up the game. Now, you can grab these images, and what you want to do is you're going to find an image that kind of works for you, right? And it could be anything you choose, really. So find something that works. Now, like even something like this would work. Now, I tend to not pull mine from the editor, okay? And the reason for that is, and I'm going to show you this in just a minute, is your image needs to be a certain size, and I tend to not get as much image as I need out of the editor, okay? It tends to come out on a little bit on the small side. I can't get enough real estate out of my pictures, right? It needs to be a certain dimension. All right, so I tend to grab mine from the game. I start up the game and I just take a screen capture from inside of the game, right? And I do it that way. All right, so let's have a run through real quick. I'm going to get the game started up. Alrighty, if you bear with me for 1 second, let's hop on over there and get that started up, and I'll show you how I go about grabbing these two images. Like I said, it's not very complicated. Just, grabbing the screen capture, and then we're just going to edit the image really quickly, and that's it. It'll all be done. As long as it doesn't take 10 years to start up here, we'll be in pretty good shape. Alrighty, let's see here. Alrighty, so I do already have an image in there, but I'm going to show you how to do this again, okay? And normally this would be a little white block right here that says preview on it. Alright, and if you look down here where it says map, says tutorial series, this is all the information that it needs from that mod desk, okay? As far as your title and stuff like that. And then right here, tutorial series, you can see, and there's a little tractor there, okay? That's all stuff that I put there. All right, so we hit start, and then this here comes up, right? And that's something, again, that I created. But we're going to make new images for you. You might be looking at a blank white screen right now that says preview. And again, here you can see the title, tutorial series. But I'm going to show you how I made these, and not a hard process, right? Just goes really, really easy. These guys will breeze through this in no time. Okay, so now that we're inside of our game here, the one thing, I think we brought this up in another video, I think, is the easy development console, right? Or development controls, something like that. And basically what that is, it's a mod that you can download from pretty much any website these days. Go to the Giants Mod Hub, download it from there. And basically it's a set of developer controls that you can use to test your map, right? Some people use it for cheats, but cheaters never win. All right, so to get into mine, it's actually F12, but if at all possible, you want to remap that to something else like F10. I haven't done that yet, and every time I do, it takes a screenshot. So for all you Steam users, you're definitely going to appreciate having, remapping that to a different key. This way you're not taking a screenshot every time you go inside of there. But this basically gives you every function under the sun to test your maps. Comes in extremely handy, extremely. You can change the weather and stuff like that, the time of day and the weather, if you want to give a little bit of a different atmosphere to your photo. Okay, but for now, we're just going to turn on flight mode, and we're going to turn off the HUD visibility, and that's going to help us out a little bit with our picture here. All right, so this way we don't have the HUD cluttering things up. And then for the flight mode itself, Q lifts you up in the air, E drops you down, and then from there it's just WASD to kind of move around. Alrighty, and then you want to find a picture that works for you. Now I want to get a bit of a different picture so you can see that it actually worked for me. I want to make it different than my original. Alright, let's get myself down here a little bit. Oops. And I guess we can maybe use something along these lines. Oh, hey. The wrong key there. Okay, so we can use something like this, all right? Now, depending on if you're Windows, Mac, depends on what system you're using, you should have a way to do a screen capture, okay, to do a screen grab. And Windows, I know it's normally your Shift key, your Windows key, and an S, and that'll get you into the snipping tool. Okay. I even remapped mine to print screen, made it a little bit easier. So when you take the screen capture, try to get as much as you possibly can into that. Okay. Grab as much real estate as you can right there and get it all into your picture. We're going to need as much as we can get there. Okay. Select that. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and we'll save that into our mod map folder. All right. And I'm already in there. So am I? Yep. I'm in there and I'm going to name it. This is for the preview. So I'll name it Prev because I don't want to confuse it with my preview. One's going to be a DDS and one's a PNG. So I really shouldn't confuse them, but I'm old. I confuse myself easily. Alrighty, and then the other one we're going to want to do is grab an icon. You can use the same picture for your icon if you want. Doesn't have to be a completely different picture. So for me, I'm just going to grab this here satellite dish, right? Now, the preview and the icon are two different dimensions. So this is the icon's going to be a much smaller picture, so you don't want to grab, I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter, but try not to grab an entire scene, you know what I mean? Like a whole giant photo. Something small, simple, usually works best, okay? So what I'll do, and I'm still want to grab pretty much of this photo or of the screen, and I'm going to crop it when I get into GIMP later on. Okay. So with this, again, we're going to save it, and I'm going to name that one ICO. So again, so I don't confuse the two, we're going to get out of there. You can back out of the game right now because you don't need to be in there anymore. All right. So we can get out of there. Yes. Really got to figure out what I did to get my my game at home. It quits the desktop. It gives me the option as well. I can quit back to the main screen, or I can quit back to desktop. Pretty nice. This one doesn't do it, so I definitely have something set up differently there. Alrighty, so from here you can see that I have this Prev and the ICO. Those are the ones that I just took. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to right click and open with GIMP on that one. Oh, that loaded pretty quiet, pretty fast. Alrighty. So now we're going to go back in there and do the same thing with the preview. And we're going to load that into GIMP as well. Okay, wants to know about our mip maps, which we don't need. So if it asks you if you want to load it with mip maps, you don't need those. If you don't know what mip maps are, you can look that up as well. It's basically just a series of images, and they vary in resolution, right? And the resolution goes from a better resolution down to a lower resolution. And it's just a way for when they load images or any type of like asset inside the game, it's a way for them to render more quickly, right? So at a further distance away from an object, it shows like a lower resolution image because you're far away and you don't need to see things in that great of a detail. And as you get closer, you know, it loads a better and better resolution. So look that one up. It's definitely worth knowing. It's information worth knowing. Okay. Alrighty. So this is the image that I had just taken. Nope, that's not. This is the image that I had just taken. Alrighty. So what we're going to do with that is our preview image is 2048 by 2048. Okay. But we're only using 2048 as the width. And I'll show you what's going on here in a minute. So looking at this right now, let's go up into image. We'll go down to scale image. Now we're at 1909 right now, and I'm going to change that to 2048. Okay. And that brings us up to 1154, which should be enough. It's close, but it should be enough. All right. And then we're going to hit scale. Okay. So now I'm going to drag this layer. I'm going to go over to layers. I'm going to drag it over to my main image over here. Okay. I'm going to drop that in, and then I'm going to move it down just so it covers this lower half. Okay. Let me get myself down there. There we go. Okay, so now that just covers the lower half. Now, this is the weird thing about this image that I was talking about. Instead of just telling you, hey, you need an image that is 2048 by, you know, so many pixels high, it doesn't do that. It gives you this 2048 by 2048, and then it just zooms in onto the lower part of that image. strange. I don't know why they do it that way. Now, I have seen applications, like texture mapping and stuff like that, where you put two different images on, on one whole image, and then you just map it to certain areas. That's not what's going on here. I mean, it is to an extent, but I'm not sure why they did it that way. Okay. And then from there, what you could do is, if you're kind of unsure, you want to be eating up at least half of the height, right? You're going to have to experiment with this once or twice. Try it out. Like I said, that's why I said to keep your image to eat up as much real estate as you can on your screen. Try to get as much as that screen in the capture that you possibly can. This way, your height is as high as you can possibly get it. I've already cropped this very top part of the image, and I made a copy of it, and I moved it up just a hair to make sure it was tall enough. Or I would just give this white some sort of background color, and I would do it that way. Okay, so like I was saying, this white area, I would generally give that a background color, like maybe sample some of this color that you see here inside these clouds and stuff. All right, and that would tend to work pretty good. All right, so once you got that in there, we're just going to go up to File. We will go up to Export, right? Export, where is it? Nope, I'm being blind. All right, we're going to export that as preview.dds. Hit Export. Yes, we want to replace it. Okay, compression, we will go with the DXT1 or the BC1. That's all we need. We're going to pick all visible layers. MIP maps, I really don't think we need them, but I let it generate anyhow. It's more important when you're doing like textures and stuff like that, but it doesn't hurt. Keep both things on default, and then we can just go ahead and export. Okay. And then our next in line, we can close both of these. Now, before you close out, I recommend that you save the XCF, like save the GIMP file itself. This way, if you need to nudge this picture around or alter it in any way, if it didn't work exactly the way you wanted to, you can actually come back and you could, you have the option to do that. Don't just close it out without doing that. All right, but I'm going to close mine out anyhow, just because, that's like I said, that's just the way I am. Alrighty, so the very next one that we're going to do is we're going to move over and we're going to grab the icon. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to open with GIMP, okay? And same thing with the icon. We're going to open up the game version there, okay? Let's go in there. This one asking us about the MIP maps. Alrighty, so here's a picture of a tractor. That was my original one, okay? And this is the picture that I took. It was a picture of a satellite dish. So what I want to do here is I'm going to crop this one. So I'm just going to go up here to, well, that is a crop tool, but it doesn't matter. So I'm going to make a nice square there. And right where I think I want my, like that, maybe a little bit higher. It's like that. Okay. And then we're going to go up to image and crop the selection. Okay, so for the image size on the icon, it's 256 by 256. Okay, so let's go up to image, scale image, and we're going to make that 256. Okay. Now, if you're having any problem with your crop and stuff like that, make sure you go over to your aspect ratio. Make sure that's fixed on a 1:1, and this way your sides will both be even. So, you're not going to get an image that's out of skew. Your dimensions are going to be the same on both sides. Alrighty, so you can hit scale, and then we're going to do the same thing with that icon. We're going to drag it over to our main image there, drop it on top of it, and there we go. We can go ahead and we can export that the same way. So we'll go up to File, and we will go to Export, and export that as the icon.dds. Yep, we will replace. Okay, all the image can stay basically the same as the previous one, right? We can hit export. Alrighty, I'm going to close everything down, but like I said, make sure you keep a copy of that XCF in case you need to go back and make some changes later. And that should be it. We can go ahead and we can fire up the game, and we can see if our changes took. Alrighty, so give me 1 minute and I will meet you there. Alrighty, so far so good. That's the picture of the house and the satellite dish that I was working on, right? Okay, so that looks pretty good. So continue. And our icon looks pretty good. Right there's the picture of just the satellite dish. Let's hit start. Alrighty, now normally if you got things a bit wrong, what you would see is a little bit of a gap up here at the top of the screen, right? You'd see the little bit of that white bleeding through. And in that case, just go back into your editor and either bump the image up or retake an image and try to grab as much as that screen as you possibly can, and you'll be in good shape. All right, so that's pretty much all there is to it. Now, like I said, it can be a bit confusing, I know, when you get into that preview image, that 2048 by 2048. I'm not sure why they didn't, like I said, they didn't just make an image that said it needs to be 2048 wide by, X pixels high, but they didn't do it that way. Alrighty, so don't let it throw you off, because when you look at their preview image, right, for any one of their maps, it shows a full image, which is very misleading, right? And it's not the way that works, right? When you look at ours, you can clearly see that it's only a half an image, right? So if I start this back up in GIMP, all right, so you can see with ours, I got all this white up top of here, and it didn't affect anything because it only zooms into that very bottom of the image. So that is it. That's all you need. All right, so let's get back over into our editor really quick. With those two images done, right, we got our icon done, we got our preview done. The only things left to do before you can publish is one, to go through your scene graph here, anything that you're not using, like for one, your placeholders. Now for that, what I would do is I would create a folder, right? And I probably already have one, is create a folder outside of your mod map, right? So maybe if you go over to your save game, I have something called maps, or I created that one, and I have a tutorial folder. And inside of there, I have all my placeholders. So I exported it to that location. And what I'm going to do is I'll come back and I'll delete this placeholders before I publish, because I don't want all that stuff in there. And the reason I do it that way is because later on, if I need those placeholders, if I work on the map again, maybe doing an update or something like that, I will re-import those into the map, and all those placeholders will drop onto the map in the exact locations that I took them out of. Alrighty, so any other things in here, like the vehicle that I was using for testing, I'll delete that out of there. And then the same thing with like the PDA, that camera can go because I don't need that. And any like deco objects and stuff like that. Now, normally when I bring deco objects in, I'll have a transform group that'll have those deco objects. Now, instead of using those objects right out of that transform group, I will copy them into another transform group like props or something like that. And this way I have two separate transform groups that I know in the end I can come back and I can delete that deco objects transform group and not worry about possibly deleting any objects that I have somewhere out there on the map. All right, so make sure you keep those two separate. Just copy it out of the deco objects into another folder or transform group, and then you're good to go. So you can go back and you can just delete that deco objects before you publish, and then you're all good. All right, so once those are all taken care of and your scene graph is cleaned up, make sure all your traffic splines are hidden, right? That they're not going to show up. See, like mine are still visible down there, so I'd want to hide those. And that should be the majority of, well, not the majority, that should be it. That should be everything that you need as far as your map is concerned. All right, so make sure everything gets saved. Now, when you come over to the map itself, into the mod map folder, okay, let's go back to mods. All right, when you zip this up, you need to zip it up, okay? Now, when you zip it up, you're not just zipping up this folder right here where it says map US tutorial series. You want to open that. Alrighty, so there's a couple images in here I don't need with this prev and this ico. Those can go. Alrighty, so what you're going to do is you want to select all of these objects, right? And then you want to compress the zip file and then give it whatever name you want to have for that zip file. Okay. That's how you do it. You don't compress just this folder. It's everything inside of that folder, not inside a map or anything like that. It's just these right here. Select all of those and then compress, and you are good to go. Like I said, make sure you don't have some miscellaneous stuff hanging out in there that you don't need. Okay. So like the CSV data, that could go. You don't really need that anymore. There's probably, if you look around, there's a bunch of stuff that you don't need. All right. Now, the one other way to do this, and I'm not going to go over it in this video, is to run everything through the test runner tool, right? And that's a tool provided by Giants. You can run your map through there and it will find all sorts of issues for you. Trust me, things that you were not even aware of. All right. It will find them. Now, unless you plan on publishing right through Giants themselves onto the Giants mod hood, you don't really need to do that. Okay. But I like to do it anyhow, just in case there's some kind of issues that I'm not aware of, and it'll catch that for you. If you're new to this, it can be kind of confusing, and you might end up chasing your tail over something that's really not that big of a deal. All righty. So as a beginner, like I said, unless you're planning on going right through Giants Mod Hub, I would stay away from that tool initially. All right. Eventually play around with it, run a map through there and see what kind of info it's giving you, but it will throw a lot of stuff at you that is not necessarily an issue, right? Like you can send this map to your buddy. It works just fine. It's not throwing any errors in the error log. That's the other thing you want to make sure. Make sure when you play the game and you run it through under a normal gameplay that no errors are showing up in your log. You don't want that. Make sure it's completely error-free, all right? Except for the ones that Giants likes to include as part of the package deal. For some reason, there's always errors that, I don't know, they just comes with the game. All righty. And then, like I said, over time, you can play with the test runner and see what's going on there. I recommend just working on your map skills and stuff like that. And somewhere down the road, I will be putting out a video on the test runner tool. The only reason I'm not doing it now is because it literally is an entire video in itself. It's a little bit of a process, right? There's a lot of things to look for, a lot of things to learn. I mean, it's not like a really steep learning curve by any means, but there's just a lot of stuff inside of there, right? That I know the first time I ran mine, oh my God, I had so much stuff that reported back and I was just overwhelmed. All right, so I'll walk you guys through it when the time comes. But for now, it's not a big deal. Just make sure your error log is clean and you should be good from there, okay? Just keep practice. And like I said, in the event that this is my last video, it has been fun, lots and lots of fun. And I wish you guys the best in your map endeavors. Like I said, because this is the last video in the tutorial series does not mean it's the last video. I've got lots and lots and lots of videos planned where we're going to be getting into a lot of things in much more detail than we did in the tutorial series, and we're still going to have lots of fun. So alrighty, if you guys haven't already done so, it helps me out if you like and subscribe. And with that being said, I am Bauer Brown, and I will see you on the next one.